holiday theater experience.
Bleak.
Kind of mixed on that.
Hate it.
Yeah. This is Film to Table. My name is Eli.
I'm Denise.
And we like dinner and a movie. They don't do that anymore. Well, apparently they do.
They do.
But
at
you
your
can't...
own peril.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just going to rant about that for just a minute.
Okay.
I don't... Like, we're not trying to say that we're better than that because we're not. But we both missed dinner and a movie. And so I was kind of happy when they were like, hey, we're bringing back dinner and a movie. And I was like,
yay.
Oh, cool. And then it was, what's his face from American Pie?
Yeah, Jason Biggs.
Yeah. And I was like, okay,
and his
sure.
wife? Is it his wife?
I think it's his wife. So I was like, cool. Like, at least they're bringing it back. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to search for it on YouTube TV.
It's like impossible to find.
Yeah. Well, and it shows up, but then I don't know. What's annoying about it is that, yes, they are doing it, but no, it's not listed any way that you can record it on YouTube TV. So like the movie is listed as Die Hard, but it's not Dinner and a Movie presents Die Hard. And so before they go to commercial, they show little segments of YouTube or they show little segments of Dinner and a Movie, but you don't know that. And so there's no way that you can record it or pay attention to the fact that it's on. So YouTube TV is going to record over it 100 times over if it just records Die Hard.
Oh, that's dumb.
So it has no way of knowing that. So fail on TBS.
Yeah, we have yet to watch a single episode.
Yeah, because I can't find it anywhere. And if I go to YouTube, just regular YouTube, I can't find it there either.
That's so bizarre.
So in conclusion, listen to us instead of trying to find Dinner and a Movie that we tried to find and they make it impossible. So I don't know where the hell you're supposed to watch that, but I guess you can if you want. Or just watch the classic reruns.
Which, can you get that anywhere?
You can watch their segments on YouTube. Kind of the same way you can watch the old segments of Monster Vision and Late Night or Last Call or Drive-In Theater with Joe Bob Briggs. You can get all that on YouTube. Or you can watch the segments and then you can put in your own movie, I guess. But yeah, speaking of theater experiences, happy holidays to everybody.
Hooray.
We just got back from watching Robert Edgar's Nosferatu.
Ooh.
And we had a terrible theater experience.
It's the word. Well,
I wouldn't say terrible.
It's been better.
It was partly our fault for running late because I fell asleep on the couch.
No, I mean, yeah, but it was still like I don't know, man.
We're not going to say where we went, but it was just not great.
Really low effort.
It's extremely low
I don't know if
effort.
everybody called out because it's Christmas, which, honestly, fair enough.
I worked on Christmas when I was younger.
Right. That's kind of part of the
kind
deal.
Of part of
yeah.
It's kind of sign up for it.
It does suck, but you kind of know what you sign up for, unfortunately.
You get paid time and a half.
Right. But yeah, it was really weak.
Not.
And then the girls sitting right next to Eli were chattering most of the time and
on their phone. The entire time.
Worst. I was ready. I was getting ready to fight. But
so was I. But I'm kind of glad we were like in a little pod.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit.
It wasn't really a. That was not really a pod though. I was like, wait, that was
like an
supposed
SAT
to be a pod.
divider.
Yeah, it was pretty weak. I thought we would have the little capsule kind of situation,
like at that one hotel theater that we've been to.
That was basically like an airport lounge.
Yeah, that one's weird, but it was
great.
It's a good experience though. Just doesn't look like a theater. But yeah, anyway. Outside of the annoying, I don't know, Gen Zers
I feel like, I don't know, the theater experience has just kind of tanked the past few years, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to recover ever.
Well, I mean, so we saw Nosferatu, and I noticed that Nosferatu is only playing in, I wanted to go see it at the Texas Theater, but it was a very late start, and you have a flight tomorrow, and so I didn't really want to push it, and... I would have loved to have seen it there if they had at least an hour or two earlier, since the movie's over 2 hours long. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're not going to spoil it. We'll just kind of
literally just came out.
Yeah, we'll touch it because it was we kind of waited to do this last episode of the podcast for this season, for the end of season 1 of Film to Table, because we wanted to see Nosferatu. I think both of us were pretty excited.
Pretty stoked about it.
To see it, because I really liked the trailer and the hype behind it. And obviously we've liked, I don't think we've not liked anything that he's done.
Well, you were not a fan of The Lighthouse.
It's not that I wasn't a fan, but I don't think I was in the right headspace to watch it that time that we watched it. Okay. But I was like, we need to watch it. Let's just do it. I'm going to power through it.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for me. Like, it was like it's like thinking I was prepared for a test. And then they put the test down. I was like, fuck. I don't know.
I was not prepared.
I'm just going to B or what is it? C all the way down. Just
to get something on.
Yeah. Just to because my chances are supposed to be higher. So yeah, Nosferatu is effectively, I mean, it really is like, it's the story of Dracula, and it's if you've seen a Dracula movie, or at least
one that's fairly faithful to the book.
Yeah, in the past 100 years. I was gonna say in the last like 30 years, but to be fair, like the original Nosferatu also
is a rip of Bram Stoker's
Dracula. Yeah. And it's over 100 years old, but and then I guess just to kind of speak to that real quick, like just kind of speaks to like how well horror has like carried from so far back.
Yeah,
I remember watching that episode with Joe Bob Briggs when he did Nosferatu for the 100th anniversary, and he talked a lot about it
on Shudder or
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, okay.
And it was real neat. Like I liked because it was the silent version, and then they showed the updated version that came out. I don't remember when that one came out, but the other version, actually the version that had it. Well, no, it's not the one with William Dafoe, because that's the one that's about the movie Nosferatu.
Oh, you're talking about Shadow of the Vampire, that one?
I don't remember what it was. I don't remember off the top of my head right now.
Because I do love that one.
Yeah,
where Willem Dafoe is the vampire, right?
Well, that's not the one they showed. They showed Nosferatu,
right? The original, like 1920, whatever.
Right, but then they also showed Nosferatu, which there's another one that is I want to say somewhere in there. But in any case, it was really cool, like just kind of hearing the backstory of all that, and really just kind of speaks to like the idea that audiences and people like to be scared, like they like the intrigue and mystery of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And so if you are a film fan or a cinephile, like a true cinephile, you would probably, or I would imagine that you applaud and appreciate what Nosferatu is, because they're doing crazy stuff in there that for over 100 years back is insane to think that they were able to pull off.
Yeah.
And for it being a silent film is really good and still kind of is creepy in its own way. Yeah, it really does.
It's kind of you're right. It's crazy that horror kind of reaches back through the ages, because even the very original from 1922 holds up really well. It's genuinely quite creepy.
Yeah, and so I thought it was going to be really interesting to see Robert Eggers' take on this, because he's such like he's so authentic with everything he wants to do. It has to be of the period. Mm-hmm. He films in very strange aspect ratios. Mm-hmm. He, I would imagine if you're a costume designer and have the opportunity to work with him, it's just like
a boner.
It absolutely is. Like, you have to be like pretty hardcore into wanting to love your craft, because he's gonna put you to like the limits of what like you're capable of doing. And so I was super like excited to see it. I would have to say it was kind of like, meh, it was okay. I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I was really wanting to love it.
Fair.
But and so again, I guess, without giving any spoilers, like if you've seen Dracula, it's Dracula. Like, it's the movie.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Different names,
but the same,
same basic idea.
They send, or there's a count who's in an area that is remote from, I guess from remote from everywhere, and they're in Europe. I guess I assume like maybe in London or like.
No, this particular like where
they're.
they.
No, well, not the count. I'm saying like.
No, I know the city itself is like in Germany.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think he said Vicksburg, maybe.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
So that's the biggest difference, I guess.
Yeah, and it very authentic, probably to like the era of the movie where Romania would have been for the count. And so, they send a guy they send him out there to broker a deal with the count who wants to buy land or property within like the modern. I guess they kept calling it the
modern city.
The modern city, and so he wanted to get a property there. They sent him out there to go get it. Things don't go well. And then there's a boat with the body of Dracula on its way to the modern city, and that's kind of it. And hijinks ensue in between all that. But yeah, I mean, like, what did you think? Like, what were like your big impressions? Because like I said, I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
I can really appreciate everything about it, but I don't know if I loved it.
So, saying this with the caveat that I think now I've firmly established that I may be Robert Eggers' target audience. I've just loved all his work, pretty much without exception at this point. And I've been waiting for him to kind of, not waiting, like I've been waiting to see if it really is just like, oh, I just happen to like a lot of the subject matters that he does or his point of view, whatever. But yeah, I think now I'm really kind of convinced that I'm basically his main audience at this point. I think you're right though in that this movie, I really like this movie. I think compared to his others, and really compared to a lot of the movies we're about to talk about that came out this year, probably not in my top 10. I think maybe worth an honorable mention.
Yeah.
At the most. I mean, and that's saying more about the movies that came out this year than this movie, because there's been so many good movies that came out. But I don't know. I almost feel like kind of what you're saying, we've kind of seen it. Right. So, I mean, seeing it from his kind of perspective and art direction and all that stuff was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it is beautiful. Like, I really do love his aesthetic as far as like how he gets everything to look, and most especially, honestly, the dialogue. I think is so beautiful that he's really committed to making it sound I don't know, not
of
easy.
The period.
Yeah.
Like you are. It reminds me of like when you get a book assignment in high school.
Yes, it's so immersive.
Yeah.
That you kind of you're trying to pay such close attention to what they're saying. Yeah, I think it's funny because I think you're right. Actually, not just with this movie, but with his other movies, it almost does feel like a literature assignment.
Right. Yeah.
That you're slogging through it and you kind of hate some of it, but at the end you're like, oh, I'm glad I watched that, because that was
I feel
educated.
Yeah, I feel more enlightened.
I feel
and
cultured.
Yeah, I feel cultured. I feel I feel accomplished.
Yeah, exactly. I like powered through that.
Right.
And it was, but I think maybe that's what it is that I like so much about his stuff. It feels very, I don't know, literary for some reason.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's feels
visual,
like
literary.
Right. It feels like you're reading a book. You're totally right. Because even with what is it? The first one, The Witch. It feels like
that was hard to watch.
That was hard,
but it was really good.
That felt like reading. What's it called? What is it called? The Scarlet Letter. Oh, that kind of book from back in that time period. And it was the same thing. It's funny because I feel like The Northman was very polarizing for some people, but I loved that movie.
I thought it was really good.
And not just because he was running around half naked most of the time.
Yeah, it's good looking dude.
It didn't hurt, but like just like again, kind of going back to, it felt like a saga. Right. Like you felt that. I don't know. It did feel literary.
That felt very much like a literary story because.
Like it felt like Beowulf, without the monster.
You wouldn't be able to read a literal, like, Germanic, like version of it, so it would have to have a level of translation that was made for Western audiences.
All the footnotes.
Right, exactly. And so it seemed more like acceptable, like to me. Also, it's very visual, like it's more visual driven than it is probably dialogue driven. But of all his movies, like that one's like my favorite. It's like probably
that's interesting.
It's probably Northman, Witch, Nosferatu, and Lighthouse. But you know, I want to go back and watch Lighthouse because I do appreciate.
Like, I did love The Lighthouse for me personally, and it's funny that we came to such different conclusions by the end of that because I felt you kind of like. I don't know, like scuffling around when we were watching it, like just so
uneasy,
impatient, like for it to end almost.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't in the right mind space for that, but you know,
I think that is definitely one of those. Because that one felt a little bit like
I cheated off you in literary class of like,
you forgot to read the assignment.
Well, I read it. I tried to read it, and I just didn't get it.
Yeah,
and so I'm like looking up.
You didn't bother with the cliff notes.
So what is the sequel? If it's that about? And
because what is it? That one was it a story about? Because I feel and I do feel for Robert Eggers. I think this is his first like adaptation, right? His first kind of non-original, basically. Like, and I definitely I liked it a lot, but I definitely think his like super original stuff is much stronger for me personally.
Yeah, and that's a good point because I think there's only so much you can do. Well, and that's what you and I were talking about. What I did like about this, and where, again, it feels very literary, is it was very brutal. Like, it was like very realistic brutalization. Like, I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but like Dracula, instead of drinking blood from like the jugular vein or like the
neck, like,
or the vein of
the
wrist vein, he literally bites like into the heart. Which
it kind of fucked up.
Doesn't make a lot of sense because like you'd have to get past like the bone plate,
ribs.
But I mean, he's not of this world, right?
So who knows?
That's probably not a problem for him.
Yeah.
And so like like stuff like that was like pretty hardcore.
It's very visceral for sure.
Yeah, like a lot of the I don't know, like the environments obviously are very well. They're lit more in a realist way, right? There wasn't electricity, so it's all like candlelight or it's like whatever. And I was telling you on the way home, like I really appreciate the fact that it was very dark, and at some points I thought I was going to get annoyed at how dark it was, but I could also tell like the color, like how they handled post on this movie. Like you could still see a pretty decent amount in the dark, and they did enough with like the black levels and the contrast where like you could see what was happening, and they didn't spend tons and tons of time in just pure darkness. But it was done very effectively. And there were some points where I could even tell they were going beyond that because there were a couple of jump scares where like stuff comes out of the dark and it was like, okay, that's a different dark than the darks we were seeing in the caverns or in the catacombs or whatever, because that had like a different black level. Like that should have been pitch black, but they didn't do that. Like they and he could have, I'm sure, but then it's like, well, now I'm just staring at pure darkness. Like what the fuck? And so, like you said, I liked the way the dialogue was written. I liked the environments and the costumes. The costumes were nuts.
Yeah, like, stunning, honestly. And I kind of love that they didn't, like, it was, there was a certain part of that kind of, I mean, really, at any era, some of it will look kind of ridiculous.
Right.
But for film, sometimes they'll tone it down so it doesn't look so weird. Right. But they didn't. This movie, well, part of the reason I love it is they didn't care. They're like, whatever. No, this was totally hot stuff back then.
Yeah.
I don't care if it looks ridiculous now.
I thought it was interesting that the main actor, Lily Rose Depp, I guess is her name, or Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp's kid.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. They really like downplayed, I guess, like her look, because she looked kind of weird to me.
No, I love that though.
But I think that was what was needed for the role.
Well, it's kind of funny because there's this small conversation that goes on online about, because so many people have done gotten cosmetic work, whether like it's just like fillers or Botox or straight up surgery.
Right.
So many people in Hollywood have done it. So there's this certain look that people call kind of like the the TikTok look or the online look.
Oh,
So when you look at somebody that's kind of trying to play a period piece, it's like, you look too modern because
Right.
you look like you came from here. It looks like you can whip out your phone at any time.
Right.
And she almost had that, but like the hair and costuming they did to her was like, oh, she really fits in that time period. Like, because if she was like done up at all, then she would look super modern, just like in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I thought Nicholas Hoult.
He's great.
He was really good. It was funny because it took me a minute to place him, and also, what's his face? The guy who's kick-ass.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah. Because I thought they were all. I think what really helped was, again, not only the costuming but the makeup and like the art direction of that group. Man, it just like I wish they could judge this a little differently with the Oscars, because I think they deserve like Oscars.
It's so good. It's so
hands
good.
down.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a gorgeous film.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hate to keep pressing the point, but it's so easy. I don't know. I don't think it's very easy to kind of act or direct in such a way that it shows that what you would call in the book to be like hysteria, when the Nicholas Hoult character is kind of like freaking out when he's in the castle, and like what's wrong with him? Why can't he fight back, or why is he sickly or whatever? Like, but when you're watching him and you're watching it in the movie, like you kind of get it. There's not a whole lot of explanation that you really need. I don't know. There's something super effective in the way that they portrayed these characters.
Right.
So I thought.
Yeah, I like I was saying, it took me a minute to place him because I was just like, and because I was really like pretty early on, I was pretty invested in the characters and the way that they were talking, and it was a period piece. Like, again, going back to the literary discussion of like, hey, the like, there were some good books that we read and literary, and then there were the tough ones that were like, they were good, but you definitely needed the cliff notes to kind of help you understand what was being said.
Help you struggle along.
Yeah, but you acknowledge that they're like, oh man, they're pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I definitely felt invested in the characters. And then at one point, I think when I was distracted by our guests next to us, I was like, it just took me out for a moment. And then I looked back on the screen. I was like, "Oh, that's kick-ass!" Like, because like he says something, or I don't know, something happens at some point. And so I was like, "Oh, so yeah, I think it was cool that it came out on Christmas. I'm glad that we got to go see it in theaters.
Man, I wish more horror movies would come out Christmas Day. I know it's like not the best time, maybe box office wise. But
yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, this movie's
so
gonna
dope.
not do well in the box office, I would imagine. Like, just based on trying to find like an early enough showing for us.
Yeah,
all the Alamo Draft House theaters were showing it in their smallest screens. And I was I was like, oh crap, we're gonna have to sit up front.
I think all the family friendly movies were on the big screens.
Yeah, and like I said, I really wanted to watch it at Texas Theater, and I don't know if we have time. Maybe it'd be worth.
Yeah,
I mean,
if
it's a long
still
movie,
playing
but
by the time.
If it's still playing in January, or if it's still playing the end of the month, like it might be kind of cool to go. Or it'd be cool if they did, because I know the Texas Theater does like the original Nosferatu with like orchestrated music and stuff.
Yeah.
I doubt that they'll be able to do that with the updated version, because now it's under like Focus Film. They'd have to get rights or whatever. But I don't know. Could be cool. Like, I'd love to see it again. I think the Texas Theater would be like, if you have the opportunity to see it on the big screen, I think it's definitely worth it. But I will say it didn't fall in my top films of 2024. And speaking of top films of 2024, this is our season 1, I guess, finale episode or whatever. Basically, we're just taking a break. We're taking a break so we can record some episodes and put them in the can.
Year, guys.
It has been a very long year for me in particular. So I'm super happy that we've been able to do these episodes. Hopefully, we have people listening and are enjoying what they're hearing. We'd love to get comments, reviews, suggestions. You can email us at topshelfvideopodcast@gmail.com. I know that's
it's a mouthful.
Well, it is, and it's also not the name of our podcast, but technically we're the sidecast of the main show.
Am I just a sidekick?
Yeah, you kind of are. But But I love doing this with you because I love when we get to talk about movies like this, and I love when I get to introduce you into movies that you have not seen, since you didn't get the same video store upbringing that I had growing up. And so we've always talked about how like 1984 was like a massive year for films, and I think it's always been very debatable what is the best year of film. And like, I mean, you can go up and down the list, 1999, 1984,
Sure.
I think like 80, 77. I mean, there's just, obviously everyone's going to have their own thing, but just to kind of like skim the surface of like some of the big movies that came out that I've already seen and talked about, with my brother Jaime on the main, podcast. But like, so you have movies like, Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo came out in 1984, Night of the Comet, Tank.
So that really depends on.
Well, it really depends. It does. But then you start getting into movies like Chud, or Cloak and Dagger, or Firestarter, the original Firestarter, Children of the Corn, Ice Pirates. Let's see, Conan the Destroyer.
Oh.
Top Secret, which is Val Kilmer's first movie.
Conan the Destroyer. That's the one with the model, right? Oh, she's incredible.
Yeah, that one's like the better one, I think.
Amazing.
Let's see, Dune, the original Dune, came out in 1984. David Lynch's Dune. Body Double with the Brian De Palma movie. Purple Rain, The Last Starfighter. Silent Night, Deadly Night. Red Dawn, Romancing the Stone.
It's a very particular.
It's a very particular year, but when you talk about like Footloose, Revenge of the Nerds, Police Academy, this is Spinal Tap, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, Karate Kid, Gremlins, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Terminator, Beverly Hills Cop, Ghostbusters.
Okay.
It's a very, very debatable.
It's
a very, very debatable big year because some of those movies still hold up to this day, right?
100% classics.
But that all said, I have to really say, for as a difficult personal like year 2024 was for me, trying to use movies as like an outlet to deal with certain aspects of that. As the year kind of like moved on, we kept looking at each other going like, dang, I can't remember a year where we just kind of see a trailer or read a thing and go like, man, I'm looking forward to seeing that, or that could be really cool, or let's make a note in the calendar for that movie because we're really super interested in it. And I feel like we had a lot of really good theater experiences, but then we had a lot of also like at home experiences because we didn't get the chance to see it in theaters or whatever the case may be, but we thought we would kind of go over some of our favorites. I think we'll call out like our top 3 favorites, not in any.
Oh, top 3 now? Keep shrinking.
Well,
I thought it was top 5 initially.
Well, okay, we can do top 5 in no particular order. It can just be the top 5 in a grouping.
Okay.
But let's talk about some of the ones that we saw that I guess would sort of hover in that sphere. What were some of your, like, I guess you could say, like, outside of the top 5, so I guess maybe like runner-ups within the group.
Okay, so not including the top 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were some of those, like?
Okay, I gotta say, it's kind of funny, but the ones that I was maybe most hyped for, not that they were bad, but they didn't make my top 5. Which was interesting. Like part one of those was Nosferatu. And then another one, kind of surprisingly, that it was good. It just didn't break my top 5 was Longlegs.
Okay.
I still liked it. It's still on the list of like good movies of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with how strong everything else had been, it kind of quickly fell off the top.
And I would agree. Like that one.
And I was hyped for that one.
Yeah, I would agree. It is in my top 24, but is not in my top 5.
Correct.
But I think you have to give props to the marketing for that because they really built a hype. But I also hate people because the people destroyed like what was kind of something fun about it. Like,
yeah, that is true.
People were like, I hate hype now all of a sudden, where it's like the hype is too big, and it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a lot of back and forth, maybe a little too much. I think the marketing was crazy for it, right? And it was super effective. But I don't know, kind of in keeping with what I was kind of ranting at you about when you've been watching kind of video game reviews or whatever. It's like, why does everybody have an opinion all of a sudden that they feel like they need to share? I mean, that's rich coming from us because now we have a podcast. Right. Well, but I'm just saying, like, why? I don't know. I feel like everybody... I think there's this huge movement to be so contrarian that it, like...
Yes.
Completely negate just the just enjoying something for its own sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you have to poke holes at the plot, and you have to like, what does that even mean? And like,
we have
blah blah blah.
I mean, to be fair, you and I have strong opinions about movies,
100%,
that we don't necessarily care for, but we're probably not going to talk about that because that's not really what I want to spend my energy. I don't want to spend my energy talking about things that and
it's so not fun. I don't know. For me, and I know maybe for some people it's super fun to shit on stuff, but like, that's so exhausting to me.
Yeah,
like, I'd rather talk about the shit that makes me excited and happy.
Yeah.
And just talk down, especially at, like, I have a huge problem with, like, talking shit about creatives in particular, because it's like, what have you done with your day that is so creative that you can shit on other creatives? You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's hard work. Like,
I think that movies are beyond reproach or that you shouldn't critique. But I just feel like if you're just going to sit there and be like, it wasn't scary, like, I don't care about your opinion in that case. Because, like, I don't know. It's just so, like, you're going to do that and you're going to say, oh, Conjuring 2, scariest thing I've ever watched. Shut up, bro. Right. Not to shit about Conjuring, but you know what I mean? Like, you're going to talk about, like, the only thing that scares you are jump scares, and you're going to ignore everything else because everything's so boring.
Right.
It's like, shut up. Get out of here.
Just allow yourself to be immersed into the movie, and I feel like
what's wrong with that? Just watch it just to watch it, and maybe you won't like it, and that's fine. But like, you can't. I don't know. Just this whole like crazy standard of like everything has to be amazing,
right?
And like if like one little part is bad, then like, oh, the whole thing's ruined.
Yeah, it pulled me out of the movie. It's like,
fuck off, dude. Like,
Longlegs had like a really. I mean, it was all Hail Satan. Like, I like that. Dude. I thought it was fun. And
how ballsy was that? Honestly, if it came out in maybe any other year, might have broken my top 5.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, that's my rant.
Yeah. No. I agree. I really liked Longlegs. I thought it was a fun theater experience. I will say we saw that with a pretty decent audience, and we were all like,
that's pretty good,
gasping at certain points. And
like the nervous laughter.
Yeah, it was I like the fact that it was a very packed theater.
Yeah. The hype machine was crazy.
Yeah. And I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought it was great.
Super
fun. I'll throw one out. Okay. That I enjoyed this year. That's maybe will surprise you a little bit. It's on my top 24 list, but not in the top 5.
Okay.
The Fall Guy.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
And if I say anything that falls in your top 5, you can just stop me and we'll
that did not fall in my top 5.
Okay. So it's funny because when I saw the trailer for The Fall Guy, I was like, well, I think this is going to be one of those generic,
just like bloated Hollywood things.
Yeah, summer movie, whatever. But then when I realized that it was The Fall Guy based on the TV show that I grew up watching, I was like, okay, now I'm a little interested because I didn't realize that until I saw the truck. Mm-hmm. The truck is very iconic from the TV show with Lee Majors.
Oh.
And so I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And I remember it was like, it was during the summer and it was very hot, and you and I were just kind of like beaten down by the Texas heat. Mm-hmm, and I was just like, hey, you know what? Let's just go watch a movie. Like, it's summer night. Like, it may have been midweek or something, you know? It was very like, let's just get out of the house.
Just whatever. We'll try something.
You know, work and everything's hard and it's so hot and we just feel very beaten down.
Yeah.
And I remember having like a really fun theater experience because we had our popcorn, we were laughing, the big screen like moments were very big and boisterous.
Yeah.
Big explosions. I mean, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, I mean, they're just
great chemistry,
right? And they're super attractive,
so charming,
and everything. Like it was just a fun popcorn movie that it makes me think of movies from 1984 where it's like, Ghostbusters or something that's just kind of like. I could go back and watch The Fall Guy and pick it up at any point if it was on
and just
TBS
like
or
every
whatever.
scene has like something fun
because they're charming. They're doing silly things. Like
it's funny.
It's not the best movie I've seen, but it was a great theater experience, and I had a good time watching it. And so I thought the
stunts were pretty great too.
Yeah, the stunts were. Yeah, and I love the fact that we've kind of gotten into watching more of. I guess like shout out to the Corridor Crew YouTube channel. And when they bring on stunt guys and stunt women, and they talk about
like behind the scenes
and how that works with visual effects,
how they take falls and things like that. Those are so fun.
Yeah, so I really appreciate. I've learned so much about like stunts and what it takes to do this and that. Not that I would ever want to do that, but like as a short filmmaker myself, like knowing those things is helpful to understand like. Oh, okay. That actually makes sense. And so you get a real appreciation for these types of people. So it's cool that they made a movie that really like highlighted them, even though it's all wrapped up. I mean, it's basically a rom-com that's tied up in a movie about movies.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like that. I thought that was kind of neat. And, they poke fun at like Dune and things like that, which, it'll probably date itself, but whatever,
it's just like it swung big, and it was a lot of fun. It was nothing serious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like a lot of those big kind of action blockbuster, that's just fun. Instead of like taking itself really seriously, like there's not a whole lot of that anymore. I don't think. But yeah, that was I can see that.
Okay. What's another one for you?
Let's see. Pull up a couple things. So a couple of like the smaller stuff that we ended up watching streaming was kind of a surprise for me. And I'll call out 3 because I kind of think of them, I don't know, for some reason all together. In the sense that like they're kind of smaller movies. I didn't expect too much. And they all ended up kind of blowing me away. The first one is Strange Darling.
Okay. Yeah.
Super fun take on like kind of the cat and mouse serial killer trope.
I like that. It was a good one.
I don't want to spoil it because it's just so much fun. You should go in blind. But it's pretty gory. It's pretty violent. Action oriented.
It moves at a pretty good clip.
It's a good pace.
It's got an interesting take on the order of operations.
Yes, you kind of have to stick to it and pay attention. But once you kind of get into it, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The next one is Cuckoo.
Yep.
I ended up really loving that movie, and I still think about that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Super fun premise, kind of bizarre. I think we talked about how like that felt very kind of X-Files.
Yeah.
It's still giving me that vibe. Because I don't know, it's just really fun.
It was fun and different. Like
it was different, and I'm glad. I'm kind of glad that they just went for it.
That would have been a fun one to see in theaters. I don't know if it would have been. I don't know if it would have been worth it because I don't think we would have been in a large audience.
Yeah, but it would have been fun on a big screen. It would have been
fun on a big screen. Yeah.
I think that the only thing that held it back from making my top 5 was maybe like the last act wasn't as strong as the first 2 acts.
It runs out a little bit of steam.
Yeah, it kind of runs out of steam. But still fun.
No, it was a lot of fun.
I would go back and watch it, honestly. Yeah. And I would still recommend it to people.
Yeah, it's actually, I guess the way that I rate some of these things, for almost everything that's on my list, if I want to get a physical media copy version of
100%.
it, that means I really kind of enjoyed it and it's worth, because it's not, I mean, it's going to be wherever on streaming, it'll be hard to get a hold of. So I want to be able to watch it whenever I can, and I want to own it without any sort of censorship or anything like that. So,
or it being super hard to track down.
Yeah, or whatever. But yeah, no, I agree. I think those two kind of fall in the same categorization for some reason.
Like taste the same, like similar.
They have very similar aesthetics and
kind of similar feel. Yeah.
The tone is very similar. Yeah.
The third one that I would mention, still kind of in that realm, but a little further out, maybe The Weird Cousin, is Red Rooms.
Let's save that one.
I just wanted to mention it real quick because I had no real expectations of this other than some people, podcasts that we listen to and lists that we've been looking through kind of end of the year listed it.
Right.
But it's like this tiny indie movie.
Right. Well, we can save it a little bit because that one does fall in my top 5.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Fair enough. So
we'll come back around to that.
Yeah,
we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that one in a minute.
Well, those are kind of the 3 that in my mind I grouped together because
that's fair.
It's 3 that I wasn't expecting much, and I still find myself like chewing on it a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll do 3 that sort of kind of fit together. We saw 3 movies that I think all these are. Yeah, I think all these are foreign films. So one of them was Twilight of the Warriors Walled In.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was the it's based on a book, which I think was turned into a comic book and then done into a movie. That one was a lot of fun. I mean, it's very much in the spirit of The Raid.
Yeah.
And probably also in the classification of action movies that sort of fall within John Wick world.
Yeah, it kind of had a bit of anime vibes to it.
Yes, it had a very. What I liked about it was it had a really cool set. It was very it felt very budget limited, but at the same time like it was fun, and I had a really good time with it. And because it deals with the big
the walled city
in Hong Kong,
Kowloon.
Kowloon.
It's since been torn down, but it was this huge basically like I don't know how to like the government didn't even want to bother with it,
right?
But it was just this huge conglomeration of buildings that people lived in that kind
were
of
built on top of each other, like, literally.
They kind of made their own city,
right?
Because it was such a mess, nobody really wanted to deal with it, so they kind of created their own governance, their own like little communities and systems.
Yeah, it was very like it felt very like I would say like a comic book or a sort of story where it's very action based, but I thought it was it had like a very interesting little like story that they were trying to tell within it.
They created a fun kind of lore behind it.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of liked about it was that it felt very imaginative.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
I thought that was a lot of fun. Another one that we saw, which I'm not 100% sure. I feel like it came out in 2024. It may have been done in 2023, but Siege, which was the...
is it Spanish, right? Spanish movie?
I want to say...
Or French?
Yes. Maybe French. But yeah, because I guess it's... Yeah, I think it's Spanish because it's...
yeah, I think... it is.
Yeah.
Madrid, yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's right. I again very The Raid-ish, even though like it lost a little bit of steam by the end, but I liked it's one of those movies where it's like it's a soda can in that it is building up pressure to the end, and it's coming at the end.
Yeah.
And it's not as heavy-handed John Wick of like, oh, I'm going to murder everybody at the end. But again, because they added some layers of like more than just like I'm doing it because my dog was killed, like which again, no shade on John Wick. I like those movies for what they are. It's basically stunt people's like reels,
just going at it.
It's like, hey, here's my portfolio reel,
right.
which is fine. I mean, I'm all about that. But I like this movie because it had a very certain aesthetic to it, and like I said, there was like sort of layers of a story there that I appreciated that. Like I thought it was kind of cool. And it's always, I feel like it's always cool to watch like from another perspective, especially when it's like a different culture that are telling these stories, even though it's like, oh, well, it's clearly they're riffing on The Raid or John Wick, or whatever, but
sure,
their take on it is not always the same as ours. And it makes you think, and it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. Cause I remember it takes place like in a ghetto, or it's,
it's like low income housing.
Yeah. And so like what, like the people actually mean something instead of just like their fodder for a kung fu fight that are just going to go flying through a wall or whatever. So I kind of like that. And then the last one that I think falls within that same category was that Indian movie Kill, where it takes place on a
train.
On a train.
Okay.
And that one's like kind of literally John Wick on a train.
Yeah.
But that was also a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Very similar. But again,
it was pretty fun.
They added a story that was more than just like, oh no, my dog. Like there really was like something there, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And again, the perspective of another culture, like I feel like adds something, and it's something that we should, like, especially as Westerners, should like, let's see a take on that.
Yeah.
And let's not poop all over it because it's like, well, it wasn't as highly produced as John Wick, and it's like,
looks cheap.
Yeah, because it's not like
fuck off.
But it's fine to be like to
it's
appreciate.
It's fine to try, right? Like at least it's a different flavor. It's a different speed. It's a different culture dynamic. I don't know. Just
it's like it's like when you see like people that are like, wait, is this a tortilla? And it's like, no, it's naan bread. Like
you're right.
But it's they look the same. It's like they look the same, but they taste different. Just except they're all good. Like you know what I mean? Like what are you complaining about? So yeah, I think those three. I had a lot of fun with those. I would say just as a little nod to this one, because I would say it definitely falls in the same category, was Monkey Man.
Yes, I did love Monkey Man.
Monkey Man was a lot of fun. Again, another John Wick take, but again, like different perspective, like all the things we just talked about.
Yeah, different city, different feel to
different culture.
One was super fun.
Yeah. It was a good theater experience. We watched that in the theater.
And Dev Patel directed it, I think.
Yeah.
And starred in it. He was great. Pretty incredible work, if that is his first time directing.
Yeah, and
honestly.
Jordan Peele was like
that's right. He was a producer.
So I think he helped with the tension building, because that movie had a lot of
it's pretty good.
Tightening the rubber band, and it's like, man, this thing's gonna pop, and it's gonna hurt when it pops. And sure enough, like he makes people hurt by the end. And I really appreciated that. And I thought it was a really good, fun theater experience. But so yeah, those are kind of some of my fun kung fu sort of.
It's a good list.
Yeah. Any other outliers?
Just a couple of mentions. It's funny because like the couple blockbuster ones, or kind of blockbuster ones that made the list but not quite in the top. Another one that like all of these I was looking forward to and I liked, but not enough to put in my top 5, was Maxine is one.
Yep. I thought that was a lot of fun.
He's super fun. Is that on your top 5?
No, it is not on the top 5.
So that was fun and I liked it, but I definitely think it's the weakest of the trilogy from Ty West.
Yeah.
Good so yeah, though. It was good. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about how it ended. So I think that knocked it down a little bit. Alien Romulus is another one that's on my list. That
was a lot of fun.
That was fun, and I really liked it, and I appreciated a lot about it. But at the same time, a lot of it is kind of forgettable.
Yeah, that's fair.
If that's not. I don't know.
I don't think in a bad way. I think
I don't. It just didn't say a whole lot of anything new, and like all the awesome stuff that it had, we'd seen before, kind of. I mean, it was a nice throwback to the original because it went for a lot of practical stuff and it really just focused on the aliens instead of this crazy huge lore that they created around it.
Right.
And so I appreciated that, but I don't know. At the same time, the characters were kind of forgettable a little bit.
A little bit, except for the android.
Except for the android, he was rad.
Yeah, he was really good.
But yeah, everybody else is kind of like, man, they were just kind of there.
Yeah, I will say, I appreciate that they were true to the franchise,
right?
In almost like respect, you know what I mean? But yeah, it very much felt like that could have been a streaming movie, and that would have been just as good. But it was a fun theater experience.
It was fun.
We had a good theater experience in that one. Yeah.
Another kind of big blockbustery one that was also good but didn't make my top 5 was Dune 2.
Yeah.
It was fine. The big worms were great.
The big fight at the end.
Was awesome.
It was great.
And I know part of the whole Dune thing is the religious messiah stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciate, and it's a it's a good story. I just don't know that I was super invested necessarily.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's a good movie.
I it's funny because it's not my top 5, but yeah, I would definitely go back and watch it a couple times.
Yeah,
because
just for the action sequences are great.
Yeah, the action, there's the whole the infrared scene where they're on the planet of what are they called?
The
bad dudes.
The bad guy planet.
The bad guy planet. Yeah, I mean, just like there's so much technical stuff that's done there that I'm like, oh man, like I really like that or appreciate that,
Yeah, it looked great. It was fun. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know. I think I've maybe liked the first one better.
I mean, I can see that. I mean, it's setting the groundwork for everything else.
Yeah.
And it's the problem with all the sequels, right? It's like you have to have watched the first one.
Yeah.
And it can't necessarily always stand on its own.
What about you? Anything else I missed?
I would say just if we want to get into our top 5, some of the ones I'll just skim off the top real quick that I enjoyed. Twisters, I thought was a fun theater experience.
It's funny. I've heard people like really hate on that one.
Yeah. And I hear,
which kind of fair.
Yeah. It
was fun.
It was fun to watch in theaters.
Yeah.
With a big audience.
It's silly.
And it's a movie that eats up the screen, and I thought,
yeah, you really just can't take it too seriously.
No,
really.
But it was
but I mean, you can say about the first one. The first one was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Terrifier 3, I think was.
Oh, I did not watch that with you.
Yeah, you did not watch that with me.
Refused.
But again, another fun theater experience. That's probably why more so it's in my list more than anything else. I mean, it is what it is. Like, what you're getting into.
Yeah. I see that.
And let's see. I think there is maybe a little bit of a recency bias with some of this, but What You Wish For.
Okay.
I thought that was a lot of fun. That was the one about I don't want to give anything away, but it has to do with like people it has to do with rich people and people that are not so rich. I don't know else how to put that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no. I thought it was good.
I think it didn't. It was really tough to call my final 5, but I do want to shout out because it almost made it a couple of movies.
Yeah.
One was Civil War.
All right.
That was okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Hundreds of Beavers.
Hundreds of Beavers was, again, I don't know if that was this year, but
I think maybe it was. Oh no! I think maybe it was last year. We just watched it this year. It just we hadn't ever heard about it.
Yeah.
I stumbled into some forum talking about you should totally watch it. It's crazy. Right. And I was like, whatever. It's time for Shitty Movie Night with Josh, so we'll watch that. And we watched it, and we all loved it because it was insane.
One of the best movies I've seen in a while.
It's
because
crazy.
It should not work, and it 100% works. Like
it's really the dedication to making a movie like that when there's nothing else out there like it.
Right.
And it really shouldn't work. Pretty incredible just for that feat alone.
Right. And you have to be a real fan of film to make a film like that because it shows everything that you're supposed to do.
Yep.
That you can tell a story without even dialogue.
Yep.
And you absolutely understand what's going on and you have a good time with it. And it was
it was so good. Ridiculous, but it's so fun.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
And then another one, which it might actually be on your list. It's not on mine, but Late Night with the Devil.
It is not.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I agree.
It was real close for me.
It was
to
very
cut
close.
That one. That one's really fun, and we've actually rewatched it once or twice.
We've rewatched it at least like once. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun, and
love that one.
David, or is it not David?
I think
David
Dasmalkian is his last name. Dasmalkian.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's great.
He's new Scream King for the ages because he's amazing.
He is fantastic in that movie, and it's
terrific.
Yeah, it's so great, and I'm glad I own that on VHS. I got the
Oh, did you?
I got the director, or not the director. I got the special edition disc, and it came with a VHS, and I'm super happy that I have that. But
that one's super fun.
Yeah, that one's a lot of fun.
And we watched that in the theater, and that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, that was so much fun. I also remember the people next to us that were like
kind of younger people,
but they were excited after and asked
that.
us, and we're like, "What did you think?" Because I enjoyed it. So, do you have anything else?
I think that was most of my non-top 5 list.
Just a couple I'll throw out real quick. Again, just quick nods.
Yeah.
Lisa Frankenstein, I enjoyed.
Okay.
I thought that was a lot of fun in theaters.
Nice campy little movie.
Yeah, it was. What was this one? Oh, Infested, about the vampire or the spiders.
The big spiders. Yeah.
That one was fun.
That was fun.
French, right? Yeah, French movie. Yeah, and I think you covered most of the other ones.
Everything else. Okay.
Well, I think there was, unless it's in your list, but I doubt it. Apartment 7.
The quote unquote prequel to Rosemary's
Baby. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was, for a prequel. I honestly I did not know for a minute there, and I should have from looking at the cover. Did not realize it was a prequel, but I like that they did, again, much like Alien Romulus. I feel like they did a really good job of honoring like the original movie, and sort of playing to that. I thought the acting was pretty good, and I thought like a lot of stuff was like, it was very well put together for probably a very small budgeted movie.
Yes.
And I thought that was great. And then the first Omen, I thought was also like another good
those nun movies that came out this year actually weren't they were pretty fun.
That was super well shot. Like it was super well shot and really, really good. But yeah, I thought those were a couple of just the last ones. But so let's get into
the meat.
Let's get into the meat. Let's start with Civil War, because again, maybe a recency biased. And you brought that one up as well. But
let's do it.
That movie kind of really shook me to my core, like in a way that I did not think it was going to, because I mean, obviously, just from the title and from everything that's kind of going on in our current society, it's very easy, and I fell for the trap too, of like, oh, this is a very divisive movie. This is going to be about, like Democrats and Republicans and da-da-da-da. It turns out it's not. It turns out it is a anti-war movie, and that in itself is pretty awesome. And I know we have an episode that I think we recorded that won't come out until a little bit later, but the reason why it's in my top 5 is like it really resonated to a point where like I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah,
and I think in our podcast that we recorded about it, we talk a lot about the fact that it is a movie that forces you to think and have conversation, and that it's exactly what we did. And I think you and I we didn't debate whether the merits of the movie as much as like our interpretations and the things that we saw within the movie.
Well, like even the preconceptions that we had going in, right?
I thought that's brilliant that a movie can do that and still like be a piece of art, and what do you think of this piece of art, and so on and so on. And I think the acting was really good. I thought the tenseness of it all was just really good. And so that one was in my top 5 for sure.
This is in like no particular order.
Yeah, these are in no particular order. Like there's no one or whatever. We don't want that kind of pressure on ourselves. We'll just pick whatever from our lists, because I would imagine we probably have overlapping. So
probably.
Okay, so Civil War for me is one in my top 5. So what's one of yours?
Okay, I'll pick this one because this is definitely not on your list because we didn't watch it together.
Oh, okay.
Which is Wicked.
Okay. Yep.
And I didn't watch it with you because it was kind of a girl day with my sister and a friend.
And to be fair, I want to watch it when it comes to streaming.
And we should rewatch it.
Right.
It was really well done, and I didn't really expect much, to be honest. my friend that wanted to go watch it, she was super hyped about it. She's an Ariana Grande fan, so she wanted to watch a lot because of that mostly. But I think she'd also watched the Broadway show a long time ago. And I'd actually watched the theater production of it also when it came through Dallas with my sister who went.
I was there.
Yeah, that's right. You came and
I enjoyed it. I thought it was
super
really good.
fun.
Yeah.
I had read the book and it was all right. I wasn't crazy about it, but yeah, it was an interesting concept, and I'm not an especially huge fan of the Wizard of Oz because the monkeys always scared me. So I wasn't super stoked to watch it, but I was like, whatever. It's like Thanksgiving break. I'll do whatever. We went to watch it, and I was blown away. Honestly, it was really well done. It was a lot of fun. It's not without its flaws.
Sure. But
for a big giant blockbuster movie, it was really high up there for me this year. Just because it I don't know, it hit a lot of marks for me.
Well, it sounds like it was a really good theater experience too.
It was super fun to just be in there with a bunch of other theater nerds that were super into watching it. They're super excited to see it. The songs were outstanding. The singing was crazy good.
I mean, some of the behind the scenes stuff that you were showing me.
Behind the scenes stuff is nuts.
And I was just like, oh shit. Like they were actually singing.
Yeah, they're singing live. And a lot of the witch, the Elphaba stunts, she did herself while singing, which is an insane feat.
Right.
But yeah, it was just I don't know. It just kind of blew me away for all the effort that they had put into it when they kind of didn't really have to go that hard.
Right.
Because there was already an audience and people were already going to watch it. But the fact that they kind of went that extra layer of like that extra effort of really making it outstanding was just,
right.
It kind of blew me away.
Yeah. And without having seen it, and being a negative Nancy that I can be when I want to. I remember talking to you when we saw trailers over the summer where I was like, bet you that doesn't do super well because like, well, and you were like, you're insane. I was like, well, okay, let me rephrase. It's going to do well because of the brand name, but I was like, I bet you it's not going to be sustainable because, I don't know. I'm a little jaded because as much as we say like, hey, let's not poop on movies, but when capitalism gets in the way and it's like, how can we market this to really like
sometimes the suits will get in the way.
Exactly.
And
they're just trying to figure the best way to make an absolute amount of money with the least amount of labor that they can and don't care about the art of it. I didn't think that it would have as much effort put in from the art side. But in watching, like when you were showing me some of the behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, that's not messing around. Like they put a lot of effort.
They really went all in.
Yeah. And so from that standpoint, I actually, I'm looking forward to when we can watch it on streaming and with our like sound system and really just turn it up and you can sing all you want,
weep the whole time.
Yeah. But, no. I'm glad that like hit the list because that seems like a good one. Okay, I'll do one.
Okay.
Let me throw in this curveball that you're probably not going to see coming.
Okay.
And you're going to be like, what? So in my top 5 is Immaculate.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were going to have that.
Okay.
But and if you think about it, it was a lot of fun. It's what I like about the kind of VHS movies some of the VHS movies that I own. It's very like about the satanic, thing and the church and and none of this kind of makes sense, but it does. And, you watch these like old Italian films or even like some of these 80s like supernatural films or whatever. And you're just like, why don't you just leave or whatever? Why don't you just do this or do that?
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a very like, don't go in that room or get out. And they did a really good job. And as much as like, obviously, like Sydney Sweeney is like a good-looking like lady. I've never really thought that she's like that great of an actor, but she's great in this movie. Like I think she fits what is needed for this movie like super well.
Yeah,
because she feels like what is it they call it? The fish out of water, or is it?
Yeah. Because she's American, but she goes to Italy,
and she's like from the Midwest, and she's in Italy. She's like way over her head. And then all this crazy stuff happens and you're just like, to me, it was very memorable. And I think that's why, so much so that we ended up watching it twice, because we even suggested it on a movie night.
We did?
We did, because you and I watched it. And then we were at a movie night at Josh's, and it was like a larger group with like other friends. And we were like, yo, you know what we should watch? Immaculate, because we watched it and it was fun.
Yeah.
And the fact that we suggested it and we're like, oh yeah, you guys will like this. This was fun.
That's true. That's fair.
It felt like a grindhouse movie is what I will say. And I really enjoyed that. And I respected the fact that they could put out a grindhouse type movie in 2024. Probably 40 years after the fact of like one of the better movie eras that we ever had, where there were some grindhouse movies and some other things like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street and some of these other sort of films. And the fact that Immaculate to me falls in that same category, that I would want to own it, says like a lot, because I feel like I said, I feel like it resonated with me because it hit so many of the marks that I like about movies. And the fact I will like the fact that like they could have, like, oh, it's Sydney Sweeney, let's like make sure we get in like a lot of sexy time shots with her and this and that. And there was really only like maybe 1 or 2 sequences in the whole thing.
Yeah, she had like a wet t-shirt moment.
Right. But they focused on like, there's a supernatural element here, and let's really like, that's the story.
Yeah.
And I really love that. Like it, you know, I'm sure people were mad that there wasn't enough of that, you know, of her, of like Sydney Sweeney time, but I loved everything else about it, where it's like, man, put a certain grain on this, put this on VHS in a 4:3 format. I'm all watching this movie like all the time.
Yeah. Basically like that nunsploitation.
Yeah. Nunsploitation is a great like genre when it's done right. And I feel like this is one of those. So yeah, like that's Immaculate funny. Is on my top 5 list, which is, it's a little weird, but you know, I like it. Yeah. It's my top 5. So what's another one for you? I feel like we're now going to start having some crossover.
Yeah, we're probably going to have a decent amount of crossover. So I would say, let's see. I guess I'll save my top 3. No particular order.
Right.
But the next one I want to mention, I'm sure is on your list, is Love Lies Bleeding.
Yep. Definitely on my list.
That one's pretty high up there.
Yes. I've been thinking about that movie since we've seen it.
Yeah, it's just so good. Like, I don't know that I've seen anything else like it. I don't know.
I'd say we have, but this again in a different perspective, like a female perspective.
Right.
That's true. Really good. Yeah. Really well, like thought out, very precise about a lot of things. You know, like, there's so much I could go on and on. I mean, we have an episode where we talk about it in great depth, but just to kind of hit on some of those points again, like obviously the acting is just superb, and I think it's going to be a real bummer that nobody from this movie is going to get nominated for anything.
Which is fucking stupid.
Yeah, which is really dumb because it's so good. And
they're both incredible in it.
I'd say the cinematography, the aesthetic is really well done, and I wish again that they would get some sort of Oscar nod for like maybe art direction or like set dressing or hell even wardrobe, because remember we talked about how like not often do movies that are supposed to take place like in the 80s or technically this one's like early 90s. I think it's early 90s. And it feels very dead on, where it's like the crossover of 80s into the 90s and you're still driving around certain cars, whatever. It's so good. There's so much that you go on and on, but you're right. It resonated so much that I have to say I really love the ending. I know we talk about that in our podcast, but
and it's funny because I feel like I could see the argument for not liking the ending also.
Yeah, absolutely. Like 100%.
Which makes it, I don't know, just as interesting as anything else, I think.
Yeah. I think that was definitely, yes, absolutely. But yeah, that was, and I go on and on, but you know, we have a hour and a half long podcast already on it. So go check that out if you want to know more.
What is it? Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Hit the whatever bar. I don't know if I have.
Hit the notification.
Yeah,
button.
I don't know if I have
is
any
that
of that
thing
stuff. I have no idea. We're on Blue Sky now, but I would give the address. I just don't know how to.
I just don't know how
Just
that
look
works.
up Top Shelf Video Podcast.
We're the worst at this. Why are we doing this?
All right. Okay, well then I'll go next.
You go.
Okay, because I'll do I think what maybe will overlap for us.
Oh, sure.
So you had mentioned Red Rooms earlier.
Okay.
And again, maybe you could say recency biased, but
Yeah.
I don't really think so. I think this movie is unreal. Like, this movie did a lot of there are not very many movies that kind of give me the creeps or the EBGBs or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And you and I have talked about maybe doing a podcast on French extremity or French films in general. Maybe not specifically about French extremity, but the parallels between like French cooking and the preciseness of French cooking, and why I feel like French filmmakers, when they want to go bold, they, and not to say every French filmmaker is a French extremity like filmmaker, but in particular, those types of movies that are very hard to watch usually have like a very long lasting, they resonate with me very long lasting, because part of the reason why I feel like they have to go to the extreme is to get their point across, because they want you to really have an emotional like pull in one direction or the other, right? And sometimes that has to be in a very uncomfortable way. Like Irreversible, which, you should never, ever watch.
No.
I watched it and had a lot of feelings about it.
And none of it good.
Yeah. And well, like you and I watched Climax and that was probably the lighter, side of things. That was just like,
that was easy reading.
Yeah. That was like it was like an appetizer kind of thing. But I feel like with this movie, Red Rooms, which is technically French Canadian, so it's kind of, it's a
the cousin.
Yeah, it's a French extremity light. It has such a buildup that it's been a really long time that you and I have been sitting there, and I'm like, I hope they do not show me anything that they are about to talk about. And so I guess since we haven't done an episode about this, and just kind of touch on it very quickly, because I really, really, really liked this movie. It is a courtroom drama, really. Yeah. About a psychopathic serial killer who is killing people on the dark web in what's, I guess there's like sort of a legend, or what would you call it? Like a supposedly there's these red rooms on the dark web.
It's that kind of an urban legend, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could say urban legend. I don't know that it's never been.
Yeah, people say it doesn't exist.
Right. But I feel like it's one of those things that, I don't know. Like, who knows what goes on in the dark web? But
maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
But the whole point being is like, this person was killing people on the dark web in a live stream.
Right.
What it was called a red room. And I guess red room because of the blood. So they were killing these people live streaming, and people would pay like money to watch. Like
Bitcoin.
Yeah,
money.
Bitcoin. Like lots of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To watch these people killed.
Yeah.
And this guy was caught, and he's now being on trial, but they're trying to prove that it is him, even though they don't have any.
He has a mask.
The person in the video has a mask.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the people that were killed that were caught, specifically that brought the case up, were like 3 young, like girls, like all high school or late teen sort of girls. And so, that's the courtroom drama, but the movie is seen through the perspective of somebody who's really into true crime, sort of serial killer type people, like almost obsessed.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you're watching the film through the eyes of this model. She's like a fashion model.
Fashion model, yeah. Who's
very obsessed about this court case and this person in particular, but probably just true crime in general. And you see everything through her, and like I said, it's kind of like a statement on people's obsession with true crime and how people, like, I don't want to say fantasize about it, but are like they see that like you and I talked about this briefly, I think, about how true crime is now it's
like its own industry now.
It is so much so that like you kind of forget sometimes that like these are real stories about people that were really killed.
Yeah.
And you're turning that into like profit, and it's not documentary as much. Like now, it's been turned the other way around. And so I thought this movie is super effective because like there's very interesting camera work. We spend a lot of the time as the audience member in the seats of the jury. Mm-hmm. Like the people are talking to the jury and the camera is in the jury box. Mm-hmm. And so it's really dark in that like it feels like a real court case. Mm-hmm. And so when they describe what is happening in these red rooms, they talk about how the hardest part of you as a jury member is that we're going to have to show you these videos so that you can make because you have to be without a reason beyond a reasonable doubt,
right
you have to see all the evidence. And like I was sitting there going like I do not want to watch this. Like it's so descriptive of what's going to happen.
We talk about how interesting that is, just kind of psychologically,
right?
That they got us to not want to watch it. When for any other movie, it's like whatever.
I want to see Freddy. I want to Freddy take what's his face Johnny Depp and fling like all his blood onto the ceiling because we know
it's fake.
We know it's fake. But the fact that they're touching on true crime and how it's being handled.
And it sounds like something that could happen. That probably has happened.
And probably, And so seeing it through this perspective as somebody who's very obsessed with these sorts of things and the sorts of things that she does within the movie, which is very upsetting as well.
Yeah.
Like, takes you to the limits of French extremity without... and I don't think this is a spoiler in case you think you can't handle a movie like this. They don't really show any violence in this movie at all. But the tension is so ratcheted that it was like almost stomach turning at some points. And if a filmmaker can do that, it's very, very impressive. And I almost immediately knew that I was like, this is in my top 5 because I'm going to be thinking about this movie for a while. Yep. The effectiveness of what they do as a filmmaker and a storyteller, like bravo to this guy for pulling this off, because that is not an easy feat to do, right? In a time when people are like, they want blood and guts, we're saying we want to see all that. And I did not want to see any of that, like not any of it. And so, I thought that was like really, really well done. So definitely in my top 5 for sure. So, what do you got? Let's
see. Oh, the cats are trying to eat each other now.
That's fine. It happens.
They're starving. Okay, what else is on my list? Another one.
You should have one more before the finale, maybe.
Well, I have 3 left that we haven't talked about. How many have you?
Well, let's see.
We just picked 5, right?
Yeah.
You picked 2.
Well, I've already talked about Red Rooms, Civil War, Love Lies Bleeding, because we talked about Love Lies Bleeding, and Immaculate.
Oh, shit. I'm behind then. Okay. Then I will give you...
I have one left, and I'm pretty sure we both have the same one.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about a couple that probably you didn't pick.
Okay.
Heretic. It made my list.
Yep. That's very close.
Yes.
I didn't say it earlier because I knew
I would pick it.
I knew you would pick it, and I'm happy you picked it. Yeah.
I loved it. I think maybe they could have even pushed a little bit further as far as the story could have been even more. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. Like brutal, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something. I think they could have gone bigger. But for what it was trying to do, I super appreciated it.
Yep.
It's funny because it I don't know. There was this discourse of how this guy. I don't want to talk too much about it and spoil it, but the talk about belief and faith and what that means to people, and how this the bad guy basically thinks it's all ridiculous, and why would you believe that, and let me terrorize you into understanding what I'm telling you.
Right.
So as it kind of slowly unfolds, the tension building is really well done.
On point, yeah.
And I so 2 things I kind of really love: the decisions that, obviously they're Mormon. That's not really a spoiler, because they do the door-to-door thing, trying to talk about Jesus, whatever. And we all have that experience of having to kind of shoo them away or like try to avoid them
Not
or
anymore,
whatever.
Now that we got dogs.
That's true. That's been super effective.
Dogs.
Yes. But, to be fair, none of them have been, horrible.
Right.
It's just kind of one of those annoying things because, like, really, on their free time, who really wants to talk or debate religion? You know what I mean? But, I've never come across one that was super rude or pushy or whatever. It's just not something I see eye to eye with them. So whatever. So I like the fact that, they just straight up, they didn't really mince words about like, oh, this is some religion and we're gonna be shy about. They were just straight up. It's like, no, it's Mormons. And the other fact that I love the choice that it was women that they had sent out. And it was funny because we were even talking about, do they even do that? Do they have women go out and
they do
the door to door? It turns out they do. We just don't see as much of it as we do for the men.
Yeah, we usually see the men.
But I do love that because it really played into like this whole being a woman of how you're polite even though somebody's being really rude and aggressive or pushy. But you have to walk that fine line of like, it's easy to say like, whatever, fuck it, just get up and leave or demand or be loud and be aggressive. But when you're in a certain situation and you can be overpowered, you can be outran or whatever, and you don't know if he has weapons and you don't know what kind of crazy ideas he has, you still, as a woman, like you're still treading lightly, because you don't want to set them off.
That's regardless of the religion part.
No, it's just like existing as a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I thought, like, I kind of love that they played into that of like, why are they being so polite? Just fuck it, just ask to leave, like whatever.
What is it they say? Like when you have that instinct, don't fight your instinct. Like go with your instinct.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it like, until you're in that position. You really, you really don't know how you're going to react. And then B, it really does come down to the fact, because I've been in that position. I think most women, I would say like 95% of women probably have been, if not 100.
You told me about a story in college where I was just like, I was almost upset because...
I know, because I look back on it and I was upset. But like at the same time, it's like, what do you do? Because like you don't want to make that person angry because you don't know what they're capable of, and now you're kind of at their mercy. And in my situation, they knew where I lived and they knew where I was parked, and like it was either try to calm them down and like do what they were asking, or freak out and yell and scream and call the police, and hopefully they won't come back because they know where I live.
Or they're gonna be like, you're just being hysterical.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's like all sides, right? And just as a whatever, just as a note, nothing bad happened to me. Nothing bad happened to me. It's just like a bad situation. That I really didn't know how to react to.
Yeah, it's a real world.
And it actually did, and I'm sure I'm not the first or only person that's it happened to. But anyway, I just love that movie. Because of that, even though they don't tackle it necessarily like explicitly, it really kind of alludes to how difficult it is to be kind of, exist as a woman just in general. And then the fact that there's this guy and he's trying to talk circles around how like religion is stupid and doesn't make sense and blah, blah, blah. But then the people that you think you're going to disagree with just because they're Mormon, just because they're the annoying ones that you want to avoid, they make some really salient points also against his argument. And I was like, that's actually like a really great point. And I totally would consider that if we were having a discussion about religion.
Open discussion. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that it wasn't just preaching about how stupid religion is or how blah, blah, how annoying Mormons are. Blah. It actually, there was like a certain pushback against how like, actually, if you're going to be just kind of a blowhard about it, you're just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah, you really, and that's really his character, right? Is like,
right.
He's being that guy that a lot of people myself included, probably when I was like in my 20s.
Oh, totally. When you're feeling like super edgy and like want to fight against
you're
powers.
like, let me tell you why your religion's dumb.
Yeah, let me tell you why that's stupid.
Yeah, and all your thoughts on it are dumb.
Yeah, when you're trying to be like that edgy whatever 20-year-old.
When in reality you just don't have enough life experience behind you to be like, why don't you just let people do what they want to do as long as it's not directly hurting other people?
Then it's obviously it's
probably going to be,
whether it's religion or not. Obviously, then it's a problem.
Like when people say like I want to pray for you, and like no, don't do that because I don't believe in religion. It's like
stupid.
Why don't you like? There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah,
and I feel like you're right. Like in the movie, it really speaks to a lot of those points, right? Which is like praying can be meditation or it can be whatever. Like it is however you want to see that. And so there's like a really good conversation there that happens between like what religion is and like what religion is to people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you. Like it was really
it was a good back and forth when you thought it was going to be mostly one-sided.
Yeah, it was a very good battle of the wits.
Yes.
And I liked that as well too. It's funny that you say this for this movie because this movie is very close to making like my list. Mm-hmm. But I wanted a little bit, like you said, more over the topness. Yeah, and I think that's why I picked Immaculate because it has a very over the topness.
Totally over the top.
Especially towards the end
subtle.
there.
Yeah.
Towards the end there, it's just like, what the hell?
Definitely.
But to be fair, like Heretic didn't really need that. Heretic's a different movie altogether. But man, the performances, the casting, the aesthetic of everything is really good.
It definitely made me think that Hugh Grant needs to be bad guy in more things because he was incredible in it.
Yeah, he really was. But it's kind of funny because like it's funny. Yes, he's a bad guy because of the scenario and everything that's there. But like he's still this like charming character that he was when he was younger. Except now you're looking at through it in a different lens.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's actually kind of creepy.
Yeah.
That's not like, but
that's not cute.
Not a whole lot
anymore.
has changed anymore. Yeah, he's still like, like he
still like the stammery and charming and whatever.
Yes.
But he's saying different things now, and
right, like the phrasing's a little different, or what he's kind of saying is just slightly off. Instead of talking about how love is actually just da 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 da.
Right.
It's like. Now he's like taking it to religion. You're like, okay, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Can you leave them alone?
Yeah. Can we just like maybe not?
Can we just get along?
So yeah, no, I agree. I really, really liked this movie. I thought it was really good. And yeah, I will also say I probably didn't put it in my top 5 because I knew you would. So I was like, all right, well, this will broaden the list a little bit because I feel like between I would say. Hereditary or Heretic and Immaculate as a double feature could be fun if you watch Immaculate as the
first.
Second. No, as the second because it ends pretty nutty, and so that would be like you're ending around midnight, and you're like, what? I'm getting a little tired, and I'm kind of like you. So you need that last little bit to juice you up and get you over the end. Whereas like Heretic, I feel like is that. Like all the way through, like it's a more like you were saying, it's like a very spirited debate. It's a very this and that, but now it's like taken to the extremes of like, wait, it was a spirited debate until you started actually doing weird, stuff, and without spoiling it, it's just, I mean, you can tell from the trailer, like weird stuff's gonna happen. Or
you know what, I think of it kind of in a similar league, but not exactly the same because of how both of them end, but. They kind of both make me think that Heretic makes me think of Barbarian for some reason.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? I don't know. It's
I think it's like the
mood.
I think it's because it's it's what do you call it? It's a chamber piece or a chamber piece movie when like it takes place in mostly like one sort of setting, right? Yeah. Because like that was like Red Rooms. Red Rooms is also very much that, like where you're either in the courtroom. Or you're like in her apartment and that's pretty much, the two.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck there with them.
Yeah, you're locked in with them.
And with Barbarians, same way, and which it opens up when they tell the story, the backstory of why that's there. But that almost doesn't count because you're only getting context of why you're in this like particular like piece.
Yeah, you're still there, yeah.
Yeah, so... I can see that. I could absolutely see that. That would also be a good double feature for this movie. Is like Barbarian. It'd have to be the second one though.
Yeah.
Like it'd be Heretic and then Barbarian.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, no, I really liked that one. I thought that was like that one lived up to the hype. I feel like,
yes,
having watched that trailer and being like, oh man, I really want to. So much so that I remember Josh, who is my friend. I don't think he'll ever be on this. Maybe he's listening, but you can say hello to Josh.
Hi, Josh.
I remember he would get out. He actually walked out of the theater because he didn't want to watch the trailers for this. He's like, I want to go in.
Oh, was it this one?
Yeah,
that's fun.
Because I remember we went to go watch Terrifier 3, and like this trailer started to come on. He just stood up and walked out, and I was like, what?
Where are you going?
Yeah, and then like he came back in, and I was like, but he doesn't have any popcorn or drink or anything. And I was like, plus we got that ahead of time, so what the hell? And he had told me, he's like, yeah, I didn't want to see the trailer.
I actually kind of love that.
Yeah. We tried doing that with Long Legs.
Yeah.
But we just
that's
couldn't,
right. That's
we
what it
couldn't
was.
make it.
Yeah.
Because we were at the Texas Theater and we're like, oh, well, I guess we're going to have to watch it. Although I turned around.
And Josh also left.
Yeah, but I could hear it.
Yeah.
And Jeff was kind of looking at us like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't want to.
You guys are crazy.
I want no spoilers. But yeah. So yeah, no, that I think Heretic was very, very good.
You just have one left.
I have one
right?
left.
Okay, I have two left, so I'll give you my other one. My other one on the list I don't think is on yours is Smile 2.
Oh yeah, no, I also did not put that on there just because
you knew it was going to be mine.
I kind of felt you were going to put it on there. Yeah.
This was another one for me that was kind of a shock at how much I liked it.
Yep.
Because I thought the first one was okay.
But it was a good horror movie.
Yeah.
A good idea.
It was fun. It was
premise.
fine. Yeah. It was like right above. It was better than it needed to be, but it wasn't like, it didn't blow my mind or anything. It was just fun. It had like interesting kind of indecipherable rules.
Right.
But I was like, whatever, I'll just watch. It's just fun, different ways of people dying. I guess it's the new Final Destination, basically.
Yeah, I can see that. It was very much like a more serious Final Destination.
Right.
Yeah.
Little gorier, probably.
Yeah.
Even. But Smile 2 really caught me off guard because it was really solid all the way throughout. And the performance of the lead was I think that's really what brought it over the edge for me.
Yes.
Because she really owned that role.
She carries the entire movie.
She really does. And it was super, I don't know, I was just super impressed with how well that all was put together.
Yeah, I would say...
And how fucking ballsy the ending was.
yeah, but I will say, like, it seemed... So to your point of what you were saying earlier about the first Smile movie, I feel like the second one actually was much more thoughtful in that.
Yeah.
Like, they're sort of doing this Lady Gaga character that's like been brought to the spotlight very quickly.
Yeah.
She kind of went from being a young person to now being like a superstar. So much so that her mom is still around.
She's a manager, I think.
Right. And we get the impression that like fame has caught her very quickly because like drugs and alcohol and all that stuff kind of like affect her, and there's like a whole backstory to that. But the fact that as a young person, I would imagine dealing with a lot of stress.
Yeah.
That the layer of the smile, like, I don't know if it's like the boogeyman or whatever the smile thing is like almost like a metaphor for that level of stress and things that a young person has to deal with when you're brought to the spotlight at such a fast pace, because nobody believes her. Like, it's all the Smile stuff, right? Which is like, in the original Smile, nobody could see the evilness unless you were cursed or you had the curse or whatever. And so like all the things that she's going through as a pop star, they're like, are you like tweaking again? Like, or you're being a diva.
You're being so difficult. Like,
right.
It's a really interesting. It's also such a clever way to use that story, right? With especially and she's more kind of a Lady Gaga pop star than anything. But like, this is, a point of time in pop culture where we saw how huge Taylor Swift got with her tour and how insane that looks, and like the fandom and how, just all of that all packaged together.
Right.
And if you think about that at that level of fame, and that person starts kind of falling apart, and like what that would do to that person and what that would look like.
Right.
It was super effective in this movie in that sense, because it's like it's so tenuous, right? Because you can go from being this huge pop star to having like one insanely bad day, and then it's all over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the scrutiny is crazy, like people treating you like a commodity is crazy.
Right.
Just this crazy work hours and
yeah,
just
the fact that no one
everything.
believes you because, like you were saying,
Yeah.
you're more of a commodity than you are a person.
100%. And like you don't know who your real friends are, because do they just want your money or your fame or
Right.
whatever? Like, what does that actually mean? And when you do fall into the trap of like substance abuse, like who's gonna stick by you?
Right.
Who's gonna help you out of that? Like all that stuff, and like how much more effort it takes because you're under scrutiny.
Right.
Like it's funny that in this kind of day and age where it's very much like, oh, I don't care about the 1%, eat the rich and
Right.
whatever. Like you were able to sympathize with somebody at that level.
Right.
Like honestly, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because I'm maybe the last person who would want to sympathize with the richy rich type person. Like,
Right.
oh, here we go, rich people problems, whatever.
Right.
But they humanized her so well because it shows her not just struggling with this weird demon curse thing, but also with like being superhuman about like, oh, she really fucked up her life at
Right.
one point,
And she's really-
still like trying to claw her way back.
Right. She's really trying to
Yeah.
do that, but it's very difficult with all the layers around her. Oh,
Right.
and on top of that, you're demon cursed.
Right, right.
So, oh no, like, and yeah, like I was saying earlier, I feel like that smartness, that's a lot of like really good effort put into something that could have been like, we just need another Smile too.
Whatever.
I
It's
don't,
just we're gonna make a bunch of money in
can
this
it take
franchise.
place
Who cares?
at a Whataburger or whatever? Like, I don't care. Like, they really could have just brushed this off as like, look, we don't care. Just make us a sequel.
Just make us some money.
Yeah. Put Smile 2 on it and people will watch it. And
Right.
then we won't make any more of these because we've already flamed out. And
Yeah.
But instead, it in a surprising twist, it's stronger than the original.
It is.
And now it's like on an uptick where I actually would watch a third one and go like, I wonder if they take the same level of care in storytelling with this one, like they did with this one. I'd be interested to see what they do with the third if they use the same crew and, sort of writers and stuff, because I think this is what we need.
It worked so well.
Yeah, this is what these franchises need, is like, okay, fine, keep making more of them, but bring something new, and this is definitely something new.
Yeah, it was such a great spin on this particular story.
Yeah.
It was super impressive. I was just kind of blown away by it.
Yeah, I agree.
Did we watch this on streaming?
We watched it streaming
we
because
missed it in the theater.
Well, I don't think we were like super like I don't think we were like, oh, we should go watch that. I think there may have been a night or two that we were like, well, we could go watch it, but then I think maybe the runtime was a little long.
Oh, right.
So we were like, no, I don't know if we want to leave the dogs like by themselves for too long.
Yeah.
It's 127 minutes. So
that's probably.
Yeah, that's probably why we were like,
whatever. We'll wait for it on streaming.
Yeah, I think we both relegated it to like, it'll probably be fine when we watch it streaming.
Yeah, it's a sequel.
And then we started hearing about how great it was, and then we were kind of disappointed that we didn't watch it in theaters, because that actually probably would have been a pretty good theater experience.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
It is what it is. But okay, so you have one left, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure
it's the same one that you have, I'm sure.
Yep. Talk about like just I don't know, like, we may not be categorizing these in any particular order, but I will say that this one, I mean, I just can't like not stop thinking about The Substance since it came out, because, oh man, it's just, I mean, we did an episode about The Substance and we talk about it in great depth, but just to kind of hit on some of those points again, it's like there are movies where you have to be super brave to make a movie like this. And I remember we were talking or there was one evening we were on the couch, and I can't remember if I was watching like a YouTube essay or something on this, but they were talking about how difficult this movie was for the director, what's her name?
Coralie
Farge. That she had a very difficult time making this movie because...
Oh, just like pitching it?
Well, no. Trying to make it because there was a lot of interference. I forget who the original distributor was going to be, but they basically were like telling her like, no, you need to have more of this. You gotta have more of that. Like they were trying to...
Totally tracks.
Yes. They were trying to tell her what to do in the movie that she should be making because she's making a huge grave mistake. They hated the ending. They so hated the ending of this movie that they decided to not distribute the movie.
Oh shit!
And I'm trying
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the original distributor was, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, so because it was backed by a big studio, and they ended up saying like this movie's going to tank, and they were very worried about it. So, in particular, the ending, the awesome ending of the movie, and so they sold the distribution rights to who's the distributor? It's
Is it Neon?
No. It's a Mubi, like Mubi.
Oh, that's right. Because it's so random.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that too when we were in the theater. I was like, wow, these guys are making movies
like,
now.
What?
Like that's crazy. But they're not making movies. They just bought the distribution rights, and we're like, not only are we going to distribute it in theaters, but when it comes streaming, it's going to come to our platform.
Wild.
And so, like, it is the best thing that's ever happened to them. And whoever the jackass executive is that at whatever movie studio that was like, this movie's going to be terrible, and you're making a grave mistake, and and you're a woman, you don't know whatever, which I'm sure probably happened in here in that conversation. For this thing to blow up as awesome as it did, that story makes me even happier that some jackass who thinks he knows art or how art and like capitalism, of making money off of art, like he knows better. It's like, oh, really? Why don't you let the artist be the artist and let the art speak for itself? And this movie 100% does that because you have to have bravery that is like hard to describe to because she stuck to her guns and she refused to change the ending of the movie. Yeah. And she's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. You'll have to fire me or figure out whatever. Yeah. And I guess because of the way the contracts or whatever was set up, that they were like, fine, we'll just it will distribute it and it'll probably just go to streaming. Yeah. And it did go to streaming, but not before it hit theaters and was the #1 movie in the box office for like a period there. And
good for her.
Yeah, no, awesome for her. And awesome for artists like everywhere. Like she made like a stand for artists in every like sort of medium of like, no, stick to what you like. If you fully believe in what you're trying to say, like in your art, do it, know, and do it with the passion that she has, because it comes through in the film, right? Like she had a lot to say. The visuals, the way it was shot. I know we talked about that in the podcast. Is like, is this a very, when you talk about the French being very, very precise, like this movie requires a tremendous amount of pre-planning and figuring out how you want to execute everything, because those shots are very purposeful, very intentional. The audio is very intentional. Everything is very intentional. Has
very on point. Yeah.
It has a very purpose of being there. And when it's all put on your plate together, like, it is so good. Like, I can't think of a movie in a while that's really like made me kind of think this way or make me feel this way that this movie did. With
this is gonna be a whole nother, like, Toni Collette should have been nominated for an Oscar for Hereditary. Right. This is gonna be the same thing for Demi Moore.
I think it's gonna be a bummer that
she's
this movie won't get mentioned in it, because I'm sure whoever this executive was is gonna make sure that he just railroads this to make sure that nothing gets no Oscar anything, which is really too bad.
Crazy.
But at the same time, it's like it spoke volumes in the money that it made and what it did, what it
was able to do.
So if it's a political, like, it's not going to get any Oscar nods, whatever. I think the artists within that community of filmmakers knows.
Got it. Yeah.
They're going to be like, you know what? May not be on the list, but it's on my list, because
absolutely.
I'm going to refer back to that movie when I need to look at how I want to express this, or I'm going to go to the substance and go, how did the substance do it? You know, with the music and the audio and the visuals and everything. And Margaret Qualley is really, Dennis Quaid is really good. I mean, everybody.
They're all just kind of hitting it out of the park in this movie.
Yeah.
And what's her name? The actress that plays Sue.
Margaret.
Is it Margaret, her first name?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was unreal in this movie. Right along, like just kind of toe to toe with Demi Moore, which is crazy. They were both really incredible in it. I don't know. I don't know that I've really seen a whole lot like this movie.
Right.
I mean, bits and pieces, right? Like we were talking about, like an homage to certain things that already exist, but kind of just the balls on it is all its own. It's just kind of a remarkable achievement that they even got it made.
Yeah.
So it already, just from there, just kind of gets the props that it got a wide release, that it got all this acclaim. It's kind of astounding that it got made at all.
Yeah.
And that it was so good and had so much to say. And just kind of the deftness of like how she kind of expressed her message without, I mean, it's funny, right? Because you can make the argument that it's like, it's so over the top, whatever.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not heavy handed because it's still just trying to tell a story.
Right.
And it's ridiculous at some points and it's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of it that like logically maybe doesn't make sense.
Right.
If you think about it too hard, but just the overall story and the overall arc of the movie is just so good. It has so much to say, but it's not beating you over the head with it. Like, oh, here, let me take your hand and show you what it means. Where it's like, it's really asking you to think about it.
Right.
It's just super effective.
You're right. And when I was talking earlier about like French extremity movies, in red rooms and whatnot, you're kind of right. Like, I've thought about like, I wonder if that movie, or I wonder if like The Substance could have ended any differently. And I really don't think so.
It shouldn't. You know what I mean? It shouldn't.
It's a buildup of absurdity that ends in a even more absurd, over the top, like
that you don't really see coming, even though you should, because it's so insane.
And I can't think of movies that do that except for movies that like The Story of Ricky O, or that other one that we watched with the starfish alien monster, and which from the same director of Ricky O. But those movies are just so like insane, batshit over the top, and we're laughing at them because they're like manga that's been made into live action, which you probably shouldn't do, but they've done
it. Yeah.
But like when we talked about on the podcast, when we talked about The Substance, how they've brought that over the topness of movies of that era of the 80s.
Yep.
And we're able to execute it in a way that like people are like, it's so groundbreaking. It's like, well, that's kind of always been there.
Yeah.
But now done with production value and given it the different perspective and lens, that instead of us laughing at it because it's, Reanimator or Rejuvenator or whatever, and now it's like in this lens of The Substance, and we have like Demi Moore, it's like, okay, yeah, I can totally see that, and it's like worth it's worth everything and every inch of film that they put onto this film. I don't know if they use film, but yeah, no, I have to say, like, if I think of the year 2024, it's definitely going to be like the year of The Substance. It's hard to think that anything else would have topped that. I think for us, we just kept going on and on and on about it around the house, and just, hopefully it's not the future that we're headed towards, but I
don't know, who knows?
Who knows? Well, all right. I guess that kind of wraps our 2024 best of, or our favorites, and some of the movies that we really enjoyed. So I guess this is, like I said earlier in the podcast, this is the end of season 1 of our film to table. We're gonna take a little break. We're going to probably record more episodes during our break so that we can have them in our backlog. But we're also gonna maybe bust out the old cooking books every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
that's a good point.
Actually pair some actual recipes every now and then. I mean, I know it's a lot of work, so it won't be every week. I wish we could do that every week, but we do have real jobs and real lives and whatnot. But hopefully if you've listened to this and you're enjoying what you're listening to, like and subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Follow us on
all that good stuff. Oh, wait.
Instagram.
We were going to talk about our favorite bites this year.
Oh, yeah. And before you do all those things, really quick, we're going to try to also wrap up our year in saying some of our favorite sort of bites that we've had every or around either the city or on our travels this past year. I mean, it was a very busy year for both of us. We did get to travel to a couple spots, some more for not the best reasons, but they were, it was good to spend some quality time with family, and then some quality time for you and I just to kind of get away. And I think one of the things that we had that I will jump in really quick that I really enjoyed was we had some Filipino eaten in Chicago when we were up there.
That's right.
I thought that was really cool. There was a place up there that you had called out. That was a really fun experience. And all the food, it was like a sort of like a modern spin on a lot of Filipino.
Yeah. So anybody in Chicago listening, I highly recommend Boonies.
Yeah.
Really cute spot. Really good food.
Cool vibe.
Yeah, very cool. Just overall great experience.
Yeah, everything. I think my favorite thing there was the dessert.
Dessert was great.
How do you say that?
It was spin on champurrado, which is a chocolate kind of rice pudding.
Right.
But they had turned it into something else. And
like almost like a flaky. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's the same flavors that you're talking about.
And then
but
they
made
had
it super crispy chip kind of thing that with like a
it was almost like cereal. I can't remember exactly what it was. But then they also had like really
paired it with ice cream.
Yeah, they had a really like kind of
rich,
really good like kind of
extra sweet.
Like I think they called it like a sweet cream ice cream, something like that.
Yeah, that was really good.
It was really tasty altogether. But yeah, the rest of the food was just delicious.
Yeah, that was really good. So that was one of my favorite sort of eats of this past year. Anything that comes to mind for you?
I know you became a big fan of that new shawarma place down the street.
Yeah, Royal Shawarma.
Yeah.
That was really good. Right on the outskirts of our Chinatown. Here in our little humble little city. That stuff's really good. I can't remember the name of, it's not naan bread. It's like a different sort of.
I can't remember what it was, but it's crispy and crunchy. And
it's
delicious.
really good.
I did go to Detroit to see a friend of ours.
Oh, that's right.
This summer, and we we had a pretty good like little tasting menu dinner that we had when we got dressed up and just wanted to have a nice time. The food was fine, but what kind of stood out to me was there's a pretty decent size like wine community up there in that area, which I guess it's kind of funny with the climate change and everything. It's getting easier and easier to grow grapes up there that way. I guess around the kind of the northern Midwest.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is kind of crazy and wild because it shouldn't be that easy to grow grapes up there. But anyway, they had a lot of really good kind of natural wine that we tasted. It was pretty tasty. I kind of wish I had brought a bottle home, but I know my friend ended up getting a bottle or two, I think.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tasty. I mean, the produce was, great. And like, I think it was like cherry season when we were up there. It was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I picked up some really tasty, non-medicinal gummies up there. That was really tasty as well.
Oh, that's good. One thing that I was thinking about was a Mexican buffet back home that we got to sample with my parents, and I think you were there, right? Or no, you were not there. That was like, I think you had already taken a flight home, but yeah, it's just like a not often is there a Mexican buffet. I mean, there's like Poncho's Mexican buffet, but that doesn't really count. And I don't even know if that place is still open.
I don't think so.
But back home, there was in particular a place. I don't remember the name of it, but it is very much a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with the South, like on the border, Eden is really good. And like they had a full breakfast buffet and a full like just dinner buffet sort of thing. It was really, really good. It was like, I think they had like on the buffet, they had like migas, and then they had like, like carne guisada, which is strange for breakfast, but like barbacoa and stuff like that, was all just buffet style, and it was all really, really good. So yeah, that was something that really stood out to me. I definitely want to go back there. I would just probably tell my parents, like, wherever that place was, that's back up the street, like near the expressway. Because most of the time, you never see the sign for those places. It's just like,
the good
it's a
ones
building.
are always really suspicious looking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know. I think that those are probably some of the bigger things for us. I mean, we always have our local favorites. I'll give, much like our little shout outs to some of our movies that didn't make our top list, but Golden Chick across the street from our house. Man, they added those like what I guess we call them wingdings, even though I guess they're just
like battered wings.
Battered wings with like a particular hot spice, whatever.
Pretty tasty.
Man,
it really scratches that itch. Honestly.
Yeah, it really does.
Pretty cheap.
Never thought I would be a Golden Chick person, but you know what?
Pretty good.
I like me some Golden Chick. I don't know about their sides, but
yeah, a little weak on the sides, but the actual wings.
The actual wings themselves are pretty good, and they won like an award for something. So I think they're like the official sponsor or the official chicken wing of like the Texas Rangers or whatever.
So random.
It's like, okay, sure, sounds great.
Totally.
But yeah, I guess as we back out of 2024 and brace for 2025 and the 4 years after that, I don't know if anybody has comments or things you would like us to try. If you're interested in how we can merge more food into movies, we'd be open to hearing some suggestions. We really could use some sort of outro. We have not figured out.
Are we just outsourcing?
Yeah, we have no idea how to end this podcast. So if you're listening and you've enjoyed what you're listening to,
help us out.
Help us figure out how to back out of this thing, because we never back out really well. This has been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to some of the things we're going to watch next year, because I feel like there's still a handful of things that you haven't watched that I would like to show you. There's going to be some weird stuff that I probably have picked up from some of the boutique labels. But there's some classics that I really like to go back and revisit that have come out with special editions or whatever. But I also want to challenge both of us to be like, watch some of the ones some of the movies that we have liked, and just try to figure out how we would pair food to some of those, because I feel like there's like some cool Australian movies, but we've never been to Australia. I know nothing about Australian cuisine. But I don't know. Maybe people can introduce us to Australian cuisine or whatever.
I'm not eating Vegemite. That's all.
Yeah, no, I've tried that.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that again. But all right. Well, let's slowly back out of the kitchen and close the doors behind us.
Okay. Yes, that.
Or put away we can put away the cutlery for tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I thought that sounded kind of cool. All right. Well, the end. Goodbye.
Okay.
No, okay. I'm just kidding. But yeah, thanks for listening, and
hope you had a good 2024.
Yeah, we will catch you guys in the new year.